And around that time, whether it were workshops or social media where chambres socialize, the most discussed topic was realm work, being a realm worker. So your feelings about realm work and how knowing about realm work impact you, if it did.
I just felt when I heard the word realm worker, I just thought to myself, well, haven't we all been kind of doing that realm work thing? And then I felt like, well, I probably wasn't a realm worker because, of course, haven't we all been doing that? But like, I've also been kind of active on the human world more than some other genre. So I had this sensation that, or not sensation, it was a thought that maybe I don't know. And then my close friend a little later on was like, oh, so you really think you're not a realm worker? And I hadn't even listened to the product that they Crimson Circle put out about realm workers. And when I finally did, it really clicked. But at that point, I had kind of been doing on my own the release of the realm worker, having been a realm worker and this being in service to humanity here, and this, yeah, being in service and being this teacher and being this helper. So I had been going through that, and when I finally listened to the channel, it was just like, oh, right. So it really clicked.
For you personally, what did it mean to learn about realm work and how did you experience it?
It was very meaningful for me to learn about that. I guess I mean, there was some awareness that I'm working in the other realms, but I just kind of assumed that's what everyone does. So it kind of allowed me to make sense of so many things that didn't fully make sense before. So it was just incredibly valuable to learn about that for me. And yeah, there was a moment in the beginning just when I doubted whether I was a realm worker, but then of course, once I really allowed myself to feel it, it became really obvious for me. So
was it an emotional thing to learn about realm work?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, when I listened to that realm worker cloud class that Adamus taught, I had such an emotional reaction to it, which really surprised me,
Why did it surprise you that it was emotional?
Because I hadn't really allowed myself to feel those emotions fully before.
I was like, there's no way I was a realm worker. Like, I had a really easy, smooth ride all my life. I was in my passion, I danced, I had my business, I was ballroom champion, blah, blah, blah. There's no way. So I was like, I'm probably like Jeff and Linda and the staff. I'm just world worker or earth worker. And like right after the Heaven's Cross, we were talking about realm work like 70% of the time, at least a few workshops after that, because it was a big thing. It was really important to address. But I never really felt that way, at least my human mind, right? But then something struck me, something that Jeff said, and it just, boom, it shifted my awareness. And then I just, in the moment, realized like, shit, I was a realm worker. Duh, like, of course I was. Oh my God. And then everything changed. I listened to it again, because the first time I listened to the realm work Merab, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna hold space, I'm just gonna human bullshit, my mind bullshit, but then the second time I listened to it, I mean, I was just crying for hours, because what I realized is that because of my first intent not to recognize those parts, I literally pushed them aside, and I put those parts of me that the one that didn't have a successful marriage, one that I actually really never was a world champion. I was so close to become one of the best ever, and I just couldn't, even though I knew I was more talented than anybody else. Like Cole Schambra, we're good, but there was that one thing, and it was actually a big wound. And when I listened to this second time, it was just all those parts, even when I was a kid, came back to me because they were grieving. They were still sad in other realms. They're sad. They didn't accomplish all these things, the human dreams. I wanted to have kids. I wanted to. And those parts of me were really sad, and that came to the surface. And so that was the way that I can now bring those pieces of my past selves back, and I did, and it was very beautiful. So my eventually I let go of my stubbornness and accepted all those pieces, and it was pretty beautiful. So yes, I was a round worker.
Well, I don't really identify being a round worker. Even there were some aspect or attributes that Adams spoke about, where I thought, oh yes, that happened in my life too. That's maybe the reason why I was not so big in business or with anything else. But later on, I was I'm not really introvert. I was always the guy who was outgoing, who wants to be seen, and so there are. I think I was the part, or I am the part that stays here to change consciousness by being a human. They're so like there's some things like I choose to live a gay life, but it was clear for me from the first moment not to hide. I was always in community, and so I think my work's here to change consciousness, to show people, to show mass consciousness you can go another way.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. You're probably gonna see a pattern here, but at this first feeling again was also like, round worker, another thing, felt like another carrot, that is being offered to us. And first I also had felt very distant to it, but more because I think it's just my I need to first overcome my skepticism around it. Which is, it is what it is. But anyway, so I remember I was in a workshop in April, and then he actually asked us, hey, who identifies as a round worker? And first I was like, I felt like, maybe a little bit, and then he's like, no, you either are or you're not, like, okay, I'm not, and then the week after that, then those two sessions came out. Remember, they came up with an extra session after Heaven's Cross where they talked about round worker and then also Q&A. And so I'm like, oh, well, I can listen and see what's about. But then this made so much sense, so many things suddenly. And again, it suddenly sank deeper in me, and I was like, wow. And also the way he explained it during those sessions, or it just was 2 sessions, but the way he explained it, and he also especially in the last 8 years, it was very intense work, and the whole thing around it, suddenly it's like,
After reading Jeff's article and hearing stories from Adamus, I realized that I was a realm worker. There was something happening that the human couldn't understand. But now, after we heard about the realm workers, what they were doing, I can relate and I can understand, and I can tell myself that, that's why you were tired. You were having lots of problems in life, going through a lot. It was a lot, but I'm glad we did it. Otherwise, if I knew I was a realm worker, I would have been complaining all the time. Why do I have to do this?
Lifetimes is an energy holder, and Lifetimes doing that, and then this realm work was something that on some level I knew was going on, because I've always been, since that 14-year-old self says we're doing this, it's been a secondary agenda. It's been something that's been part of my life that I didn't fully understand. And I do understand why I didn't know, because if I would have known, I would have thought about it and kind of disrupted the whole ease of it, you know? I mean, I totally get that. But to have it finally come to fruition and have that secondary agenda disappear, it's like, that's what that was. Okay. And now I can release it and let it go. Was such a powerful thing. It was just, my whole being was just in such gratitude.
So once you learned you were a realm worker, okay, that made sense, and that made sense. What were the biggest realizations?
One was understanding the dream state, which even though I understood that, you know, a lot of us, that we do integration through dream state, I was many times surprised by how intense the dream state is. And even after doing a lot of integration, how the dreams just continue to be so intense. Yeah, all kinds of dreams that didn't really make any sense to me on a human level, like dreams where we were rearranging constellations or like visiting some other planetary systems and kind of exploring different dimensions or different realms of consciousness. And but it always, what it felt like was really like having another job, like a full-time job during the nights. And it was exhausting because I would wake up so tired in the mornings, you know, as if I had had a whole night shift. And then I needed to, and I felt like having jet lag, you know, like I needed to really put a lot of effort in grounding myself. And it was a relief to understand what all of that was.
And even like, you know, after realization, then you think, oh yeah, now you have all those dreams, you're floating with the, you know, you go to the crystalline, you get all this wonderful, you know, experiences. But I was always dreaming. I remember I was always dreaming, and my dreams were always busy, and I felt like, why do I work so much in my dreams? You know, what's going on? And I couldn't understand. It's like something is wrong here.
I think for me, hearing about the realm work helped me make sense of my dream state, but also the conflict I feel as a human, or was feeling as a human, being asked to put out energy or entertain people or go places that are kind of chaotic or cacophonous. My discomfort in those scenarios, I'm pretty good one-on-one. I'm not good in chaos. I'm not good in groups necessarily. Mm-hmm. So I think understanding more just that solo, that quiet, deeper inner journeying and working, it really is work. It really was work. Whether I was on my bicycle, whether I was hiking, whether swimming, you know, whatever I was doing, there was a part of me still in the other realms, it felt like, lifting a shovel, paving the way. You know, I saw images when Adama started to revealing more about realm workers. I saw myself with work gloves on and a shovel in my hand. And I was like shoveling dirt or shoveling shit or shoveling something to build this pathway, to lay the foundation, to be a part of something bigger than myself, certainly.
You know, I had a series of dreams where I was down in the foundation of an old mansion that was being renovated, and we were shoring up the foundations, and there was a certain energetic feeling that I would have while I was in the dream. And then I would hold that. And then the next night, it was like the foundation, it's hard to explain, but it was like the foundation was created because I held the energy in my body during the day. Okay, and this was part of, I guess, the energetic manifestation that was required to be a human in body and doing the realm work from that place.
I would spend a lot of times in war zones and in wars and battles from different historical periods and in different parts of the world. And of course, you know, at first I was like thinking that this is me integrating some past life experiences, but there were so many, like thousands of these dreams. And at some point I was like, okay, I can't have been part of that many battles and wars. You know, like I was a woman in most of my lifetimes. So it didn't really make sense to me why I'm spending all of this time in war zones, my dream states.
It was pretty beautiful. So yes, I was a realm worker. But then after that, right after I integrated those suppressed feelings, then I was actually able to really realize what I was really doing. Because, like, to give you just an example, like when the war started, I remember first 2-3 weeks of the war, like literally feeling that I was there in my dream state. Like I was on the battlefield in Moscow, in Ukraine. I mean, I was there, like it was so vivid, and I would wake up being so tired. And I knew, even then, I knew that I was shining. So you know, like, and then being in Serbia, shining my light in mass consciousness there. So that's when all the realizations came in, and realized, like, oh my God, I was a realm worker for eons.
Well, the next thing that happened was that he talked about that the realm workers should retract the parts of their being that had been working in the other realms, and that felt very deep for me, and somehow it explained my whole life. Like I would see so many things. I could talk to people, they would never want to listen to what I was saying. Mainly my whole life I feel I've been rejected with what I can see and feel and hear. So that was somehow, suddenly there was an explanation for that. And I felt very deeply about this realm worker work, and also the retraction back to myself. And since then, I've been so tired. I sleep hours in the middle of the day. It's like part of me has been exhausted, and Adamus also talks about that. So it's been very deep for me to hear about the dream walk, the realm worker work, and also that the work is done, and the impact that it has had. So part of me cannot even fathom how much it was, but according to what Adamus says, it's been such a deep preparation, and I feel I've been doing it so many years of my whole life here.
During the first workshop in April, he basically said, if you're Crimson Circle staff, you're not a realm worker because you have to deal with all the energies here. So it's very, you know, you cannot do both. Basically, it would be too much. I always, I was wanted to support Crimson Circle with work, and one of my ideas was, I want to work for Crimson Circle, right? And then for the longest time, I couldn't do it because I didn't have the right visa in place, and then it just didn't happen. So it's like, part of me felt bad that I couldn't accept that. And I was like, fuck, I was always thinking that's what I wanted to do, and now I have the chance, but I feel like I came up with my mental reasons not to do it. But then now knowing with a realm worker, I understood if I couldn't have done both, because, it would have just pulled me apart, basically, energetically, right?
Hearing of the realm worker was so helpful for me, because I love this Adamus physics and this explanation, and it made so much sense to me that when we open up to other realms, and it's not familiar, this feeling is not familiar to us, we can may get lost or get so distracted that we leave our body. And it made all sense for me. And I need a lot of information for my mind to see if something is safe for me.
Mhm.
So when it's safe, I can let go of things. I can open to other things. There's this feeling, I have to survive. I have to survive. I don't know why, but I have to survive. And so I put up all these shields, and hearing about the round workers was so good for me. So, wow, even this is they even thought about this to make this safe.
I realized that I actually give myself a perfect setup, because I never had to wake up before 10 o'clock, right? So like the work time was like, now when I think about it, like my work time was always from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. So, like I never had an alarm clock. I would literally sleep, probably do my work there, and then wake up and then dance, and I was always wondering, why do I have to sleep until 9-10 o'clock, even though, I would sleep for 9-10 hours. And I never really understood why. I always rationalized like, because I'm dancing a lot or whatever, which is not really the case. Now I know why. So it is amazing how I set it up that way, where I can literally be doing the realm work, and the rest of the time I can just be dancing. But so yeah, it's an amazing how it worked out.
It's word salad right now, because there's just so much still as we've taken off our wings and the realm work is done. I don't know how other people are experiencing it, but there's a lot of disorientation and discombobulation, and now what do I do? Where am I? And I'm really grateful that I get to take it slow and come back slowly.
It felt good for the human also to know, that's why all those things in the past felt the way they felt. And that's the reason why I made certain decisions, And then I was just also grateful to myself, like feeling my gut, following my gut or my feelings, and not, and listening to that, knowing that there's something going on, even though I didn't consciously know it. So yeah.
For some identified with realm work because the first when they learned it, they just knew, and they got the emotions, and then the grieving, and so it was very, very, they were feeling a lot right away. And for some, it was the way you describe it took a few things like a few explanations to listen to, so that your mind would then take notice of certain things and connect the dots, and then this must be the right.
Suddenly, like, kind of shortcut the mind in a way, and you let the feeling like really unfold.
And knowing that I did it for myself, for me, and that it was not something that I was following any directives. It was something that I was called to do because it aligns with the passion that comes from a soul level.
Mhm.
And in some ways, it led me to understand my soul better, of what it's about, or what it is, who it is, what it is, to allow that, to allow my human self to shed the resistances and let this beauty in.
Если мы возьмем моих любимых работников близлежащих сфер Земли, которые строили железную дорогу, благодаря которым осуществлен Небесный Крест. Ведь я их осуждала, как это так, они пожертвовали собой ради того, чтобы построить там Небесный Крест. Ну, я так шучу. Да? Ведь на уровне души было же заблокировано большое количество их жизненных аспектов. Огромного количества людей, они жили как моли, они были убогими человечками, реальные бледные моли. И если посмотрят люди из других школ, из других семинаров психологических, вы о чем там говорите вообще, ребята, в своем малом круге? Если вы моли, вы никто и зовут вас никак. Также у меня на уровне души было заблокировано все. И восприятие себя было как жалкого человека, именно потому, что нужно было прийти к этой точке Небесного Креста. Поэтому вся блокировка на уровне души, с одной стороны, человек осуждал себя и говорил, что ты убогий, а с другой стороны, это было просто необходимо, потому что при наличии наших рожденных талантов мы бы отвлеклись, мы бы пошли в нашу гениальность. Важно было прийти к Небесному Кресту и к моменту интеграции своего света, своей благодати, своей божественности в наши физические тела, в наше ДНК, с изменением структуры ДНК. В этом есть действительно то новое, ради чего это и происходит. А все остальное, как игра, как аспекты, как уникальные театры, да, спасибо огромное, но я хочу мудрости. Я хочу мудрости, я хочу своего светового тела. Я хочу своей благодати, я хочу глубокого соединения со своей душой.
Do you feel you're still in some kind of service to anyone?
Yeah, that's been a tough thing to let go of. I mean, a big part of that service ended with Heaven's Cross, with the realm work completing, but I noticed myself holding on. I mean, that's why I continue doing this therapy work, because it's been such a pattern, you know, to be in that role of like helping and teaching. But yeah, in some ways I am letting go, like as I mentioned with the family members, at least there I'm trying to play less of that role.
So if it comes to service, it's mostly humans and it's mostly your clients.
Mm-hmm.
You don't feel like you're obliged to, I don't know, humanity, helping out humanity.
I mean, that's where it comes from. It comes from some ancient Atlantean guilt.
Is it still there?
Yeah.
The guilt?
A little bit.
Yeah. We all can expect a visit from a dragon every once in a while. I guess.
Yeah.
That's what guilt does.
I think it's the biggest challenge in not only this year, but my life maybe, to release my largest karma. I decided to let go of my karma.
Do you know what karma that is? Or is it just a heavy overlay that you're still feeling?
Not having enough, not being able to do so-and-so, and being afraid and not being able to say no is my, I think that's the largest karma.
How do you feel, how you being a long-term Shaumbra could have influenced the heaviness of that and the difficulty of releasing it.
Good point. Yeah, I think it will have an effect. Maybe I took the load of it on myself, even though it's not mine. And now I'm just being able to let go of it. But it was difficult because I thought the heaviness of the mass consciousness was mine.
And so I was a teacher in many lifetimes, and also a battler of what I felt was right, like a crusader and all those. So all of this was part of this human machine of trying to find out, or like, what's the way out? And I feel I was peeling back those layers, like those residual layers of that service, being in that service for humanity, and also having chosen this lifetime, being here in service, bringing the light as a realm worker as well, to mass consciousness and bringing different perspectives, bringing the perspective of the unity, oneness of the self. And so I feel there was still like this, almost as if it was a friction, like I gotta do something. There's something I need to solve or fix or fight for. And of course this was very subconscious, but this was still in my energy. So it was, I feel, leading up to Heaven's Cross and right around, it was peeling back these layers. And yeah, that was a huge change.
Yeah, it seems like it has a lot for all of us, or for a lot of us, it has a lot to do with that, what's called the vow of Yeshua, the vow to bring the light and to carry the light into this realm, into this world, which made us be righteous, but righteous not in the religious sense, but in the sense I have to do everything I can to be the bearer of the light, to be the bringer of the light, and I'm gonna do it no matter what, regardless whether you want that light or not. I'm committed to doing this. I'm gonna be doing this. And so right now, all of us who felt that vow in themselves, who had that in their energy, all of us are facing with those issues, like we have already done it. We have already overdone our mission. Right now it's just about being here. This is being, and shining is the most optimal way of carrying and bringing the light, but we keep fighting for bringing the light. So we keep fighting for bringing good to others. So it's very familiar, and the more you fight for bringing the light, the more it's gonna hurt.
It's definitely much better than it, like in the early days, even like during Tobias times. I remember I had like totally the savior aspect, you want to save this person, that person, and trying to change their situation. And it was really helpful to hear it back then already. It's like, no, you're not here to save the world, it's not up to you. Like, wow, yeah, that feels so much better and lighter, the whole weight is gone around like this kind of guilt thing. Oh, I have to help others to be worthy, as you said, right?
We have been in service to others for a long, long time. Right now, do you feel you are still in some kind of service to others?
In a way, yes. So I can see that when I'm with friends, so with people, for example, I make music with, so people who are close to me, where we have something together, and I see at the time I'm together with them, I already feel what's going on in them, something like that, and I see that I immediately try to harmonize things, or to just shine more, that they maybe can get over their issues.
But does it affect you energetically? Does it take its toll on you? Okay.
Yes, I noticed shortly. So I am with the friends, and they asked me to do for a favor to do a film, and they are a musician too, and everything is fine, and we have fun. And when I come home, I feel like, oh, what is this about? I'm feeling like so
drained.
Yes.
I'm just to summarize, I would say there was a lot of trauma, conditioning, self-worth stuff, everything that restricts us as humans, and so we don't receive because we're not in sync with the natural state or recognizing the realization, let's say. But these days I feel like there's this old story still being released especially after Heaven's Cross, that was about service, being in service to others, and being, let's say, a leader, or feeling somehow responsible, being on a mission. And so there is definitely this in between period for me going on about, like, how the hell do I let go of that old thing on this very human level? Like, how the hell do I integrate having released that old role? Which means I don't need to be necessarily of service, at least at the expense of my own well-being as a human.
Могу сказать, что вот этот ошейник, который присутствует с ноября 2022 года, семинара Staying in Grace, я понимаю, что я говорю об удовольствии, а программа глубокое ограничение себя в удовольствии, в том, чтобы быть рабом в служении, привнести там что-то кому-то, она присутствует во всем этом опыте, через который нас провел Адамус на этом семинаре. И программа ограничения удовольствия, она, я думаю, у меня она всплыла. И из-за того, что реально нет достаточно нового света, она пока никуда не высвободилась вместе со всем этим мошенником и всеми опытами и моими темными аспектами. Недостаточно света, потому что, видимо, слишком много было вложено в то, чтобы пройти опыт ограничения себя. И вот эта игра теней, о которой говорит Адамус, да, там нет никаких демонов, с вами все в порядке, все хорошо, есть игра теней, да, я ставлю определенное программное обеспечение, через призму которого идет свет, мой свет, и я получаю эту реальность. Да, не хочу я уже никакой игры теней, они мне надоели, но они по-прежнему присутствуют на орбите, и это очень хорошо чувствуется.
Again, my human self was like, okay, now we're gonna, after Heaven's Cross, we're gonna talk about crazy physics and what's gonna happen 5 years from now and whatever your mind wants to experience. And of course, at least in the beginning, it wasn't like that. There was a lot of, I think that struck everybody, right? It's like, oh, now we really see how much shit we have to release to put it in a chalice. Chalice. Thank you. So that was, I think, the first 2.5, 3 workshop was really just talking about, all the things that we had to go through as realm workers. That was a big, not just as realm workers, everybody, but mostly realm workers, and all the issues that we had to deal with it, and that we we kind of created because parts of ourselves went somewhere else. So that's what we were doing. So there was a lot of heaviness. It was really heavy, and yeah, like you say, like at times, you know how I'm always cheerful and always like a butterfly mode, but it wasn't really. And I had my own shit, to be honest. You know, my hero self, my savior self, my some sexual energy virus self that was like there, that I also realized, I'm like, whoa, I still have some. Some of it's not mine, but some of it was still there. So a lot of us actually. So I would guess that was the biggest thing. I guess in the workshop is that we were all surprised how much more there is to really let go for everybody. So
I had to go to the dentist, but not for having some pain, just for taking some pictures. So I was quite relaxed. And I went into the waiting room, and the moment I get there in, I was feeling nervousness and anxiety, and everything inside of me was like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew this isn't me. So I sat there in this room, and I was closing my eyes because that helps me to be in my space, my safe space. And then I've chosen to that I don't carry on their stuff. This was quite interesting to be just for myself, and for me it was clear this is the way to be, and this doesn't mean I'm not compassionate anymore.
Beautiful. And that takes us back to the question about compassion. Right now, even mentally, we already know that the best thing that we can help them is to teach them to be compassionate for themselves. And self-compassion would mean that we make this conscious choice of not playing the old roles for others, the old roles of being a mediator, the old roles of being peacemakers, because it's not compassionate for our own self, because it hurts us, because it drains us. So yeah.
По-прежнему момент предоставления себя членам семьи и своим пациентам, он присутствует в моей жизни. После этого, конечно, я себя ругаю и злюсь на себя. Этот момент присутствует. Вот эта определенная жертвенность в помощи людям, в предоставлении своих резервов, потенциалов и своей энергии другим людям. Именно от того, что нас много, и сознание намного шире, чем у других, мы предоставляем свою возможность света. Ну, ты выйди там из, образно говоря, там какого-то ограничения, в котором находишься. На, посмотри, вот я тебе даю альтернативную реальность, такую, 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 даю тебе все варианты. Возьми и воспользуйся ими. Слушайте, уже не хочу. Да, ну и оставайтесь там. Не услышали, да и сидите, ради бога. Нравится, значит, сидеть. Пока не настрадаетесь, не выйдете оттуда. Смысл от того, что давайте я вам фонариком здесь подсвечу, здесь, здесь, здесь. Ты видишь, сколько у тебя вариантов и потенциалов. И вот это вот на коне, этот аспект нет. Мне с этим моим врачебным образованием уже это все здесь.
Let's try to identify what is it that you... Maybe it's a long answer. What is it that you've sacrificed by, as you said, being very focused on your path and being in service? What is it that you sacrificed by doing it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, functional relationships. I've had many good relationships, but I've had quite a few shitty relationships or imbalanced dynamics, and I feel I did that a lot because of
being a realm worker. So I really dove into mass consciousness and brought light and understanding to those dynamics. And I worked through a lot of things. So what's going on for me here at this point is I'm learning how not to necessarily do that. Like dive into an experience or a problem to solve, so to say, and get excited about resolving it. Just enjoying life.
I think we need to discriminate between or distinguish between kind of that energetic, masterful service and doing for others, kind of cleaning up after somebody else, either literally or figuratively. I don't feel like I'm cleaning up somebody else's messes. I don't feel like I'm having to go around behind somebody and fix it or heal it. I don't see myself trying to fix things for others the way I'm interpreting what you're asking. I'm not trying to fix it for my brother or my family or my wife or the universe. I don't feel like I'm carrying those kinds of weights on my shoulder now.
And when you were doing work with the Crimson Circle and putting together classes and materials for different classes, how did it feel back then?
It was probably 100% service to others. I got a lot out of it. I could never even pay back all that I gleaned, all that I gained, all that I learned, all the transformations I went through. I mean, so I should almost give back my salary. I should pay Jeff and Linda rather than, back in the day getting a salary from them. But truly, my heart in writing the curricula and building the workshops that I built really was in service to Shaumbra. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in service to Shaumbra because it was my way of giving back for everything that I was receiving. And it was mostly Tobias back in those days, just the gratitude, overwhelming gratitude for finding my home and then wanting to give back because of that gratitude. There's nothing I would not have done for Crimson Circle when I was in their employ. And then suddenly at some point it dawned on me, I'm just receiving me. Come on, Maggie. And then work or supporting them in whatever way they might ask. It's not work. It's not payback. You're doing it just out of pure joy, pure grace.
Do you feel you're still holding back in some ways? And if you do, why would you be holding back?
Still, I try to help somebody more than it's still the old pattern is still going on, right? I'm aware of it, and then I step back, but this pattern is not totally gone yet. I mean, it's not, I'm not standing enough behind the short wall because, of course, I sense so much what can be done, and so I cannot, I'm still too much of this service person that I was.
I was driving up to go to Vancouver Island to get on the ferry to drive my RV across, and I'm driving along this 2-lane road, and all of a sudden I had an unbelievably intense moment of absolute love just flood me. And I'm driving along the road, and it's like there's traffic and there's no place to pull off, and I'm tearing up, and it's like, what is this? You know, it was just an unbelievably intense feeling of love. It was just, I would call it a Christos moment for me, of tapping into that place inside of me that is vast and unknowingly able to love and have compassion. What's preventing me from experiencing that all the time? And the answer is nothing. There's nothing. So that nothingness has faces like people pleasing, of what will other people think about what I'm doing in this moment, which is a distraction. My ancestral ties or lines or beliefs or whatever is still hanging on inside of me. You have to have a house, and you have to have, you know, the 2.5 kids and the white picket fence, or what, you know, however we're going to define that, which I don't have. And I have very little intention of changing that at the moment, but there's still that sense of feeling like I'm holding myself inside to a standard that is no longer viable for me.
Do you feel you're still holding back on your own light right now?
Yeah, a lot, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And how do you feel? Why is that happening?
It's been such a habit and pattern for like my whole life. So the holding back is not new. It's just now it's starting to be really obvious how much I'm holding myself back, and I'm starting to be aware of expressions of myself that are not holding back, and then the contrast is really jarring. But why am I holding back? It comes back to that illusion that something could be unsafe. For me, apparently it's hard to let go of those memories or past experiences where allowing my grandness and my light has not been safe for the human, where it has scared other people and then caused them to be hostile, and even though that would not happen anymore, it's scary, for the parts of the self that are holding on to that past.
Именно вот этот момент памяти, когда память вспомнила, как мы страдали, переживали негативные опыты, оно еще не высвобождено, оно внутри стоит как ком. И гравитационно на орбите это присутствует. И я, когда даже вдыхаю свет, я чувствую, как эти опыты, они по-прежнему внутри моей орбиты. И я как раз-таки именно вот это физическое ощущение, что этот невысвобожденный опыт, он по-прежнему внутри меня, он не трансформирован, оно меня держит как ошейник, да, все время это вот здесь, как ошейник. И этот момент, у меня возникает страх, что с одной стороны ты в мини-просветлении и в принятии своей мудрости, а с другой стороны в тяжести вот этого ошейника, этого своего же негативного опыта. И он же четко, Адамус четко сказал в семинаре Мерлин, да, что это все не наше, мы настолько в это поверили, настолько на себя одели эти ошейники, это все, что разинтегрируйтесь с этим. Да, в какой-то момент происходит разинтеграция и легкое отдавание, а в какой-то момент все равно, когда маленький человечек в бинокльном видении, хоп, и здесь ошейник защелкнулся и душит тебя. этот момент, он в основном сдерживает мой свет. Остальные какие-то моменты в окружении меня, в материальном мире, в физическом мире, другие люди нет, они не являются препятствием. Это основной момент. Мои внутренние темные неинтегрированные аспекты, мое программное обеспечение, которое я поверила, что это я.
What would be your ideas or your recommendations of how do we get out of it, of this pattern?
Imagining what it's like when we don't hold back. Imagination is something that can like shed light on the potential, and then just starting to take steps towards that, like, because we make so many excuses why we can't go into that direction, but there's always something that you can do. And so something that I'm doing is like, okay, I'm just gonna maybe walk or hold my posture in a way as if I'm allowing my light fully, even if I'm not, but I'm just gonna like pretend and walk that way, and it actually does then change the dynamic a bit.
You wake up and you're like, I'm not holding back anymore. Mm-hmm. What would your life be like? What would change?
I'm sure my life will change in many ways. As to how exactly, I'm not sure, but I also already see some signs. For instance, like these new people that are coming to my life, they don't need to be carried. They know how to love themselves. They love themselves. And so the sharing is just so expansive. And to be in a romantic relationship like that, I definitely sense the potential for that. And how this is gonna affect my work, the way I work, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna expand into doing my work more in English, mainly in English. So that's gonna expand it. But let's see. I don't necessarily have a lot of expectation, but just this kind of pull towards this expansive, happy potentials.
If Kim woke up tomorrow morning on the day of the first day of the light of the Merlin conference and said, that's it, no holding back anymore, what would your life be like? What would change?
Definitely how I feel about myself would change. I would allow expressions of myself that are very, very confident, very self-assured, confident about their capacity to create, because those expressions of myself exist. I just hold back, like I don't allow them to really be here with me. And in terms of work, like at the moment I work with all kinds of people, but a lot of them are not necessarily very aware. So in order to have a conversation with them, I attune kind of to their consciousness, because, well, maybe there's been a fear, like if I just speak from a more expanded self, like if I express different facets of myself, they're just going to run away, I won't have any clients left. So,
for example, if you completely stopped holding back, if you could just put your light full on 24/7, what would anything that would change in your life?
Maybe I will have a girlfriend. Yeah, I'm just joking. I'm half joking.
It's not a joke. It's not a joke.
I'm actually joking. Half joking, half not, in a sense where, if I wasn't holding myself, that's a great question, Nastya. Let me meditate on that. But I just feel that maybe I would have some relationship. Maybe I would have a girlfriend. Yeah, I can see that being there. Right now, I had an excuse, doing my book and taking care of other stuff, and I didn't really want anything on the outside, any other human to mess with my creation. So yeah, once I'm done with the book in a few days, gotta go for it. And then we'll see. I'll let you know next time.